now that the mathematical preliminaries are out of the way, we can commence upon the main part of the course, which is the study of rigid body dynamics. Now, as I had mentioned early on, the study of rigid body dynamics requires us to first understand what a rigid body is, right? This forms part of what is called in mechanics as defining the constitutive law. Then we got to understand rigid body kinematics, and finally we got to do kinetics. Okay, so that will be our sequence as well. We are going to first define what a rigid body is, and then we will spend some time understanding rigid body kinematics. Finally, we'll talk about kinetics, and then we'll combine all of these to solve problems in rigid body dynamics. So, rigid body dynamics is a fascinating field, and here is a picture of two Nobel laureates, Wolfgang Pauli, this one, Niels Bohr, this one, and a tippy top right here. Okay. So, moving on to let's begin by defining what a rigid body is. So, a rigid body is a body in which the distance between any two material points remains fixed. So, let's kind of draw a figure to understand what I mean. So, here is a body, okay, and a material point is any point which is fixed to the body. So, here is a material point G, and okay, actually I have used A over there, so let me call it A, not G. So, here is a material point A, and here is another material point B. Let there be an origin, let us call it O, okay, and I am measuring this, the location of the material point A by RA, and the location of the material point B by RB. So, this distance, so this vector is given by RB minus RA, right? And what is being claimed over here is that this distance RB minus RA, which is the same as RA minus RB, the magnitude of this vector remains constant no matter which A I choose or which B I choose. So, that is a rigid body. Okay. Alright. So, what are the implications of this definition? The first implication is that if I have a rigid body, okay, and let us get rid of this tail here, there, looked more like a body, then the angle between any two intersecting material lines must remain fixed. So, what is a material line? A material line is a line in the body. Here is a line, okay, here is another line, and let us imagine that they are intersecting by extending them. Then this angle theta must remain fixed. I will let you prove this. You can prove this on the basis of this definition simply by using the cosine identity. That's implication 1. So, what is the second implication? Second implication is that the orientation and location of a rigid body is fixed by the position of any three non-collinear material points. So, let us explain that through this picture. So, here I have a rigid body, and in this rigid body I have three material points that I have identified, G, A and B, and the claim here is that any time I know these three material points, I know exactly where they are, then I can reconstruct the entire rigid body. Okay. So, that is the claim. So, let us see what it means. So, the first thing that you do is understand what you mean by reconstruction. By reconstruction I mean that if I had, for example, any other point, let's say I was interested in point C. Okay, so suppose I know where point C is in the beginning relative to points G, A and B. Okay, now if I know where point C is in the beginning, then at any other time, if I know G, A and B, I should be able to find out where point C is. Okay, is that true? Well, let's think about it. So how should we locate point C in the new configuration of the rigid body? Well, let's start by trying to locate the projection of point C onto the plane defined by B, G and A. That's B, G, A over here. What we know is that the distance BP, the distance GP and the distance AP must remain constant in the new configuration, because that's what defines the rigid body. Distances between material points don't change. So that will allow us to locate point P somewhere, let's say over here, so that BP is the same as BP here, GP is the same as GP here, and AP is the same as AP here. Okay, you can think about how to locate it. It's straightforward geometry. The other thing we know is that the angle between intersecting material lines remains fixed. That means that PC is normal to this plane defined by B, G and A. So C must be located here somewhere, or here above or below the plane, so that CP is normal to this plane. Okay, so there are two possibilities. It could be either up or it could be down. The distance PC will be the same as this distance PC, but we don't know whether it's going to be on top of the plane here or below the plane here. So there are two possibilities, and what we can then do is we can draw this kind of a figure. I'm going to try and copy it from here. I'm struggling a bit. There we go. Let's copy it, bring it back over here, paste it, align it, and what we will find is we can have, as I just mentioned, we can have C either above the plane or below the plane, so that PC is normal to this plane and it is of the same length as this, same as PC prime. How do we decide whether C is on top or below? So one way to decide between which of the points C or C prime is the right position, new position for point C, is to kind of describe point C's location relative to the plane ABG. So in this figure, C seems to be on top of the plane ABG, so we expect that perhaps this is the right one, because the relative orientation of C with respect to the plane ABG is the same as the orientation over here. But how do we quantify it? Well, one way to quantify it is to use vector algebra. So let's call this vector as RAG, and let's call this vector as RBG, and let's call this vector as RCG. Okay, the way I have drawn it, it's clear that RCG dotted with RAG cross RBG, this quantity is positive. Okay, so we expect that if we were to do this computation here, this quantity should remain positive. Out of these two choices, only this choice will have this quantity positive, and therefore this is the right one. Okay. Now there's a more physical interpretation of this. If you recall, this is the box product, and the box product is the volume is related to the volume of the parallelepiped formed by these three vectors. But here we don't have a parallelepiped, we have a tetrahedron. So it turns out that the volume of the tetrahedron A, B, C G is actually 1/6 of RCG dotted with RAG cross RBG. Okay, and what we are saying is that this volume is positive here, and therefore this volume should be positive in this picture also, and only this choice ensures that the volume remains positive. This one will give you a negative volume. Okay, and you should be reminded of orthogonal tensors which preserved length but volumes could be positive or negative. Okay, and the negative volume corresponded to reflection through a plane. Rigid bodies can't reflect, so therefore this is the right answer. Okay, so therefore in the end what we have done is I have proved to you that if I know 3 points A, B, G and I know the rigid body in the beginning, then I can reconstruct the rigid body simply by following the motion of these 3 points A, B, G. Okay, all right. So what's the next implication? 3 non-collinear material points define a coordinate system attached to a rigid body. Well, that's very clear. Here are 3 non-collinear material points, and we can define this unit vector E1, that unit vector E2, okay, and a third unit vector E3, which is E1 cross E2. Okay, so the third unit vector will be somewhere over here. Okay, and that defines a coordinate system. Obviously this coordinate system is not Cartesian, okay, but it is a coordinate system which is attached to this rigid body, because I am going to follow these 3 non-collinear points. Here they are again, and again they can define, it is just the same coordinate system over here. E1 is not the same E1, so I am going to call it E1 prime, E2 prime, and normal to it is E3 prime. Okay, so that's the coordinate system. Okay, so this motivates us to define something called a body fixed coordinate system, BFCS, which is a Cartesian coordinate system which is attached to the rigid body. So this one is specifically Cartesian. Over here, just choosing any 3 random non-collinear points did not give us a Cartesian coordinate system. So I have explained this in this figure over here. Okay, so here is my rigid body, and this rigid body I can pick 3 points A, B and G in such a manner that GA and GB are orthogonal to each other, so they define these unit vectors E1 and E2 which are normal to each other, and then I can define a third unit vector E3 which is E1 cross E2, and that defines a Cartesian coordinate system which is attached to this rigid body, and that is the body fixed coordinate system. As you can well imagine, there are infinite number of such choices. I can pick another origin G2, pick another point A prime, some other point here on the surface B prime, and I have a coordinate system E1 prime, E2 prime and E3 prime given by the cross product of E1 prime and E2 prime. So yet another body fixed coordinate system. Okay, and what we have learnt is that since over here we just saw that if I know the location of 3 material points, I know I can reconstruct the rigid body. That means if I was to follow the motion of these 3 points A, B and G, I would know the motion of the rigid body. That's what I mean by this statement, where I say that the body fixed coordinate system's motion tells us everything about the rigid body's motion. Okay. So that's all about rigid body. Moving on.